I banish things for a living, but this one keeps coming back. I woke up with a stranger's tongue in my mouth, only it wasn't a tongue. It was cold and muscular and tasted of wet soil and rot. For a second, half drowned in sleep, I just lay there, my brain trying to process the violation. Then I gagged, bucking upright, and spat a fat, shelled thing onto my sheets. It landed with a soft, wet smack. A snail. And as I scrambled back, a whole river of them poured from inside my t-shirt. They slid down my stomach, my chest, my legs. A cascade of shell and slime. The feeling is something I can't properly put into words. It's an intimate kind of wrong. The collective weight of them, the dozens of tiny, rasping mouths working against my skin, the cool trails of slime that turned sticky tight as the air hit them. The sound. A soft, constant clicking of shell against shell. 100 wet pops as their bodies unstuck from my flesh. The smell hit me last. Damp earth. Crushed greens. A faint, cloying sweetness underneath it all, like flowers left to decay in a vase. I clawed the shirt off. It hit the floor with a sound like a wet towel full of rocks. I stumbled naked and shaking toward the bathroom, slapping them off my skin. Each one I dislodged made a quiet thump on the floorboards behind me. I didn't look back. I just needed them off. All of them. In the shower, my hand hovered over the faucet. A new thought, cold and sharp, cut through the panic. The pipes. What if they came from the pipes? What if I turn this handle and a torrent of them comes blasting out, a high-pressure hose of shell and slime and broken bodies? I stood there for a long time, shivering, my hand trembling an inch from the cold metal. Waiting. For what? I have no idea. Finally, I just said fuck it and twisted the knob. Water. Just water. So cold it felt like needles, but it was clean. I cranked the heat until steam filled the room and my skin was screaming, raw and red. I scrubbed myself until I felt clean, but the feeling of those things on me, it didn't wash away. When I walked back out, the snails hadn't gone far. A glistening, slow-moving disaster zone around my bed. A few dozen of them were clustered on my discarded shirt. Others were exploring, leaving shimmering trails on the floor. One, a big bastard with a shell of brilliant yellow and black stripes, was making its way up my nightstand, its little eye stalks twitching. And I knew that snail. I know how insane that sounds. A snail is a snail. But I'd seen that exact pattern, that specific chip on the edge of its shell, before. I'm certain of it. Completely, unhealthily certain. I did the only thing that made sense in that moment. I found a small utility knife in my desk drawer. I picked the snail up, ignoring the way its body sucked against my fingertips, and held it to the light. Then, carefully, I carved a tiny, perfect triangle into the back of its shell, just deep enough to scrape the color away. A permanent mark. My mark. I collected 4 others, chipping their shells with 1, 2, 3, and 4 notches, respectively. Then I went to the window and flung them, one by one, into the dark courtyard 3 floors below. I didn't feel a shred of guilt. My phone was on the nightstand. A new message from Zoran. In hindsight, my text to him from the night before must have sounded like I was having a breakdown. Something about snails everywhere. I guess I couldn't expect much. Zoran is my handler. Handlers are a weird breed. Part dispatcher, part shrink, part cosmic insurance adjuster. They find you when you've been in the shit long enough. A text message out of the blue, a phone number that always works, a voice that sounds like it's seen it all twice. They're the ones who connect us grunts to the archives, to the people who clean up the messes we make. They disappear just as quietly as they arrive. One day, the number just doesn't connect anymore. I try not to think it's a bad thing. I tell myself it's retirement, that there's a limit to how much of this you can see before you just stop. Zoran's been my guy for 6 years. He's blunt, but he's good, usually. His text wasn't helpful. No record of spectral gastropods. Consulted archive. Sounds like a contamination issue. You brought something home. Fix it. That was it. No? You okay? No follow-up questions. Just the flat accusation that I'd screwed up, that I'd let some thing follow me home like a stray dog, and the implication that I do it often. I don't, for the record. But one part of his text snagged in my brain. Contamination issue. He was right. This probably isn't about the snails at all. The snails are a symptom. I had to find the disease. So I made coffee and pulled out my notebooks. Years of cases, documented in cheap spiral bounds. I was looking for a pattern, for anything that rhymed with this. The problem, broken down things are appearing where they shouldn't be. They seem to be able to bypass physical barriers. And maybe, just maybe, they're the same things, returning. Or I'm losing my mind. That's always an option. As I scanned the pages, one case kept pulling at me. It felt similar. In my notes, I called it the lost and found. I was younger then, about 8 years ago. My knees didn't sound like bags of gravel back then. It was a university town, all red brick and ivy, steeped in a permanent autumn dampness. My handler at the time, Anahita, sent me to a small regional museum just off campus. The curator, a man named Alistair, was coming apart at the seams. The museum was failing, and to make ends meet, he'd started some dumb rumors about haunted artifacts to drum up tourism. Except something answered back. Things had started appearing in the locked display cases. At first, it was junk. A tarnished dime store ring. A single, fingerless glove. Alistair assumed it was a prank by one of his student interns. Then, a professor on a tour with her class shrieked when she saw her own silk scarf draped over a Bronze Age fertility idol. Alistair had just opened up. He swore the case was empty when he did his morning rounds. He was the only one with the key, and it was on a chain around his neck. It got worse. A woman filed a police report when she saw her missing engagement ring sitting inside a case next to a chipped funerary urn. That's when Alistair made the call. When I got there, the museum was closed to the public. He'd wrapped every display case in plastic wrap, like leftovers. It hadn't stopped it. New things kept showing up. He didn't dare remove them. They're just there, he told me, his voice thin and frayed, like they belong. I took his key, the one he swore was the only one, and told him to go home. The place smelled of lemon polish and old paper. I walked the circuit, letting my senses stretch out, feeling for a tether. The cases were full of the usual stuff. Arrowheads, pottery shards, corroded jewelry. And mixed in with them, the new things. A student ID card. A cracked pair of reading glasses. An old flip phone, sitting there like it was some ancient relic, each one placed with the same care as the legitimate artifacts. I checked for drafts, for loose panels, for tricks. Nothing. The building was solid. I stayed the night. As darkness fell, the air grew thick. I could feel the tether now, a low, persistent hum in the back of my skull. A feeling of being watched by something patient. Around 2 a.m, I found it. The anchor. It wasn't an object. It was the glass of one of the main display cases. It was cold. Impossibly cold to the touch. When I breathed on it, a patch of condensation formed, but it didn't fade away like it should have. It stayed, a perfect, ghostly oval on the glass. As I stared, I saw it. Inside the case, nestled between 2 clay pots, was a small silver locket, simple, child-sized. It hadn't been there on my last pass. I was sure of it. That was the anchor. The tether hummed from it, a clear, sharp note of wrongness. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I unlocked the case. The key felt hot in my hand. As the glass door swung open, the cold rolled out in a wave. I reached in, my fingers closing around the locket. It wasn't pulsing. It wasn't warm. It was just a piece of cold metal. But when I turned it over, the polished surface caught the low light and showed me a reflection. It wasn't my face staring back. It was me, but as a boy. Maybe 7 or 8 years old. And the face in the reflection was terrified, his mouth open in a silent scream. I snatched my hand back, dropping the locket. The air in the museum didn't vibrate. It died. All sound just ceased. The hum of the lights, the creak of the floorboards, the rush of my own blood in my ears, gone. And in that crushing silence, I felt an emotion wash over me from the tether. It wasn't anger. It wasn't malice. It was Disappointment. A cold, clinical disappointment, as if I had failed some kind of test. The locket was the anchor now. I knew what I had to do. I grabbed a piece of willow from my kit and a thick iron nail. I pinned the locket to the board, the sound of the hammer striking the nail head like a gunshot in the dead quiet. The locket shivered once and the feeling was gone. The silence broke. The lights hummed back to life. I sat with my back to the case for a long time after that, just breathing. I sealed the board and locket in a canvas wrap. I called Anahita. Voicemail. I left a message. It's done. Anchor secured. It felt personal. Call me. I tried again at 4, 5, and 6. Nothing. I left the museum key in Alistair's mailbox on my way out of town. Anahita never called back. About a week later, I got the first text from Zoran. No explanation. That case has always bothered me. I was certain that Anchor, the locket, was moved there for me. A test. A message. I just never knew what it meant. And writing all this down, the thought hits me like a fist to the gut. Zoran was right. It's not about the snails, any more than the museum was about a lost locket. It's about the anchor. It's a contamination, a message. I just turned in my chair. The desk lamp casts a small yellow circle of light in the dark room. The snail is back. It's halfway up my nightstand, right where I found it this morning. In the dim light, I can see it perfectly. The bright yellow and black shell, and the small white triangular chip I carved into it. It's not just there. It's angled toward me. Its eye stalks are raised. It's waiting.